Yes, guys, welcome back to the MMA Soccer channel. I am Frazer Krohn, and let's talk UFC 324 and 325. I have been so engulfed in the fight announcements from Dana White yesterday evening, um, taking to Paramount Plus, introducing a new Paramount Plus era. Halftime show of what I assume in the US is a big American football game. I'm not really sure, but I've got some issues. I enjoy a Dana White fight announcement as much as the next person, and usually I'm a little bit negative on this show, and I'm going to try my best to be positive, but I just don't think that the fight announcements that Dana White announced yesterday are going to breed positivity. Um, I've got a few issues with them, is what I'm trying to say. Let's jump into UFC 324 first. We knew when it was going down. I think it's January 26th. It's going down. Las Vegas. We assumed that the lightweight belt would be on the line with Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria obviously released a statement earlier yesterday afternoon to state that he would not be competing in the first quarter of 2026. He's obviously going through some sort of family issues. I think probably alluding to the divorce that he's going through. And I believed that what that meant was that he hinted that there would be an interim title fight. I've got a piece all about that on MMAsoccer.com. Check it out. I'll put the link in the bio. But we alluded to on MMAsoccer.com that there would be a lightweight title bout on the UFC 324 card. Now I assumed that would probably play second fiddle to an actual title fight. What we've got is Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim lightweight title as the main event. The co-main event is a mega fight between Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes. I'll come back to the sort of the placing of those two fights on the card a little bit later on. We've also got a great fight between Sean O'Malley and Song Yadong. We've got Waldo Cortez Acosta, just again, just sticking with that regular activity, taking on the Black Beast Derek Lewis. Arnold Allen takes on Jean Silva in a fight that we again I'll link the story below, but we let you guys know about that earlier on in the week. We didn't break the news, but we let you know about that. And I believe that Umar Nurmagomedov and Devison Figueiredo are also competing on that card, as are Rose Namajunas and Alexa Grasso. Touching on those fights that I've just mentioned, if you've got Sean O'Malley, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Devison Figueiredo, if you've got Sean O'Malley and you've got Umar Nurmagomedov fighting on the same card, it doesn't make sense to me to not have them fight against each other. O'Malley is ranked number 2 at bantamweight. Umar Nurmagomedov is ranked number 1. Merab is obviously fighting next week. Song Yadong ranked number 5, Devison Figueiredo ranked number 6. That would make me assume that Zahabi will fight Corey Sandhagen first quarter, middle of next year. It just didn't make sense to me to have the number 1 and number 2 fighting, who haven't ever fought each other, fighting on the same card but not fighting each other. That is what it is. It's not my biggest gripe about the card. So let's jump into the main event, the one that everybody's talking about, Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje. It doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me. Why have an interim title fight? Taking into account this is the first card bringing in the Paramount Plus era for the UFC, and you're headlining the first card with an interim lightweight title fight. I'm going to caveat this whole video before I properly get into it. I like Justin Gaethje, I like Paddy Pimblett, I like Kayla Harrison, I like Amanda Nunes. There's no fighters on this card that I dislike and that I don't want to see fight each other. But why have an interim title fight with two guys that are not the best in the division? The UFC is bringing in a new era to Paramount Plus where the best fight the best. Ilia Topuria is the best lightweight, and at the moment he can't fight. So, understandably so, he can't compete. But why have the number 5 in Paddy and the number 4 in Justin? Why have those guys fight out for an interim title shot. You've got, it goes Ilia Topuria, Arman Sarukian. I think it then goes Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, or Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, and so on, Dan Hooker and alike. Oliveira and Holloway seem to be on a collision course, but even so, don't water down the products by putting an interim title on the shoulders of, say, a Justin Gaethje, who was lost to Charles Oliveira, who was lost to Max Holloway. For these casual fans are more than likely going to tune in to the first Paramount Plus I call it a pay-per-view, the first numbered event on Paramount Plus. Let's just play devil's advocate. Justin Gaethje wins the fight. You're trying to tell me that on paper, Justin Gaethje is the second best man in the division, despite the fact that he has lost to two men who are in the same division as him in Max Holloway, who's ranked number 3, and Charles Oliveira, who's ranked number 4. He's lost to both of those guys. And it's not like he's lost to them 6, 7, 8 years ago. He's lost to them fairly recently. He lost to Max Holloway in 2024, so just last year. And then obviously he lost to Charles Oliveira 3 years ago in 2022. So for the casual fan, they're going to think that Justin Gaethje is the second best lightweight on the planet if he wins this fight. Again, we're not saying that he will. It's a tough fight against Paddy Pimblett. But you're trying to tell me that Justin Gaethje is the second best fighter at lightweight. What about Arman Sarukian? Everyone's asking, what about Arman Sarukian? Arman Sarukian is the number 1 ranked guy in the division. He's on a 5-fight winning streak with 3 finishes. And he's beaten some of the best guys in the division. Charles Oliveira, beat a tough Beneil Dariush. Just last weekend, he beat a very tough Dan Hooker. And he looked almost flawless doing it. He beats the best guys in the division and he doesn't get rewarded. Now, I admit, pulling out in January at very, very late notice is not a good look. And it's not a good look. And I think the UFC have probably got a bit of a bee in their bonnet about that. We don't know why he officially pulled out. There's rumours that he was struggling to make the weight. But I don't think you pull out of a title fight just because you're struggling to make the weight if you're confident that you can win that title fight. If you think you're going to miss weight, don't lie about a back injury, make the walk. If you're so confident you're going to win, you take the belt off the champion. You don't win it yourself because obviously you're not eligible for it if you miss weight, but you take the belt off the champion and then you fight for the vacant belt. You're probably the A side in that fight. We don't know, but what he did prove last weekend is that he can headline a big, it was a big fight night card. The UFC's first venture into Qatar. The UFC obviously trust him to do that. He made weight. He looked phenomenal doing it. Why is Arman Sarukian not competing in this interim title fight, if an interim title fight even needs to be made? Paddy and Justin is an interesting fight. There's no doubt about it. I am very intrigued by how the fight might go. Would Justin Gaethje, Paddy, questions have been asked about his stand-up. He leaves his chin very high in the air, but he's good at, look at the state of Michael Chandler's face. There's questions about whether Paddy is a ground fighter. He's very, very proficient on the ground. Can he get Justin Gaethje to the ground? Who knows? It's an interesting fight. Make it as a 5-round co-main event for this card. And don't put an interim title fight, have it. Unofficially, have it as a number 1 contender spot. Dana White always says, yeah, this is the number 1 contender fight, no doubt. He said that Michael Morales versus Sean Brady at UFC 322, I think it was 322, was for the number 1 contender spot. And what's played out is Kamaru Usman is probably going to get the shot. So Dana White will say one thing, and it's very rarely the case. Have this as a 5-round co-main event, unofficially, for the number 1 contender spot. If Justin doesn't want to take that because it hasn't got the caveat of having a belt on the line, I can guarantee you Arman Sarukian would have put his hand up. For me, putting an interim title on it waters down the product that the UFC is trying to sell. And Paddy is a huge star. There's no doubt about that. Paddy is a massive, massive star. But he's not a mega star where fans won't tune in if a belt isn't on the line. My other gripe with this fight is that Justin Gaethje does not deserve a shot at an interim title and potentially be one fight away from a title fight. He's on a one fight winning run over a guy that he's already beaten. He's already beat Rafael Fiziev. They rematched in a rematch that never made sense to me. Justin Gaethje beat him again. He's on a one fight winning run. I don't like this fight. I don't think Justin Gaethje deserves it. And to be honest, I've got more of a problem with Gaethje getting the fight than I do with Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett is on a 7 fight winning run. He's got a history with the champion. He's proven time and time again that he rises to the occasion and he always improves. And you cannot deny that with Paddy Pimblett. His first fight, you look at his first fight to the Michael Chandler fight, he always improves. And I think they'll rise to the occasion. But I think that booking Justin Gaethje in this fight sends a massive message to UFC fighters. A, the UFC is somewhat in Ali Abdelaziz's pocket, especially if Kamaru Usman gets the welterweight title. The welterweight title shot, which we think that he will. Ali Abdelaziz does what he wants in the UFC. And B, if you throw a tantrum and refuse to fight unless it's for a title, you get what you want. And that is exactly what Justin Gaethje has done here. A 1 fight winning run that went to a decision over a guy that you've already beaten before, who is not ranked in the top 5. You should not be getting an interim title shot. Arman Tsarukyan should be getting the next title shot. Like I said, having an interim title fight above an undisputed title fight, in my head, is questionable. I did hear the Fight Disciples have a very interesting take on this, however. They said that people, and by people I think they were sort of alluding to the more casual audience, are more likely to stick around for a men's MMA 5-rounder than they are to stick around for a women's MMA 5-rounder, regardless of whether it's Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison. Because that is, for me, amazing fight. Great history between the two, training partners. Amanda left because she didn't think that she was getting the sort of attention she deserved. Kayla's obviously then taken that attention, ran with it from ATT. She dropped down from 155 to 145 to 135. Everyone questioned whether she would make the weight. She's now made it 3 times in a row. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing fight. I've got absolutely no problem with that fight. But like the Fight Disciple said, putting that on as the main event, people may watch the Paddy versus Justin fight and then stop watching. Putting it as a co-main event, they almost have to watch that to get to the Paddy and Justin fight. I get where they're coming from, but I think if they're the kind of fans that don't respect women's MMA, we probably don't want them to be watching the sport long term anyway. If you can't get excited for a fight like Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, this sport isn't for you. If you sell the fight correctly, people will want to watch it, regardless of whether it's the first fight of the night or the final fight of the night. And I do think that the UFC will be doing that with Nunes versus Harrison. I'll obviously be breaking it down closer to the fight itself, but I think this is fascinating. There's no warm-up for Amanda Nunes, straight back into it against one of the best. Very interesting stylistic matchup, and I can't wait to see it. And all of that will be going down at UFC 324. 1 week before, we got back-to-back numbered events for the first time in as long as I can remember, because we've also got UFC 325 that goes down from, I think, Sydney, Australia. I need to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it goes down from Sydney, Australia, the week after UFC 324. So I think it's the 31st or the 1st, depending on where in the world you are. UFC 325 in Sydney, Australia. Yeah, I think it's the 1st in Sydney and the 31st in the West. We've got one fight announced for it. It's the headliner, and this is the one that I think has absolute abhorrent matchmaking. It's Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez 2. I think this is shocking. I think this is lazy, and I think it's insulting to all of the featherweights out there. I have no problem with Volkanovski headlining. In fact, I welcome it. It's great allowing him to fight back at home, potentially for the last time. I think he's 37 now, Volk. Let me double check that because I don't want to call him older than he is. He's 37. Yeah, so I was right. 37 years old, Alexander Volkanovski. Potentially the last time that he'll fight at home. He's a huge star. He doesn't have to fight in Australia for him to be a big star, but he is a huge star. And it doesn't come as much as a surprise to me that he is headlining this bout. He's also been out since last April. He hasn't fought since last April. Who did he fight last April? Diego Lopez. For me, Lopez is an unwanted surprise. And it's a little, I say surprise, we heard rumours that this would be the fight that's being booked between in the featherweight division. Diego Lopez getting the, I don't know if you could call it an immediate rematch because he's fought in between them, but for Volkanovski, it's an immediate rematch. It's rinse and repeat. He does not, Diego Lopez does not deserve another shot at gold, especially when you consider the landscape of the division. Now, if there was no other contenders, if there was, absolutely no one else in the division who is deserving of a title shot, then yeah, book Diego Lopez. He's a big star in Mexico. He's got a fun fighting style. He's coming off a good, he blasted John Silver out there in 2 rounds. John Silver, by the way, is yet to prove himself at the upper end of the division. His best win is, Bryce Mitchell, who's now a bantamweight, has never been good on the feet. Arnold Allen is going to test John Silver at UFC 324 a week before. I can tell you that for free. But Lopez lost last time out. When they first fought, Lopez lost convincingly. I think it was 49-46 on 2 scorecards and 48-47 on a third. And it wasn't particularly close, and it wasn't a particularly tough fight for Volkanovski. Since then, Lopez has won 1 fight, like I said, against John Silver, who's yet to prove himself at the top of the division. Volkanovski sat out. So this is, for Volkanovski, it's an immediate rematch. This is the one that's really annoyed me. Like I said, the interim title, you don't have to put interim on it. They have done. It is what it is. This one makes no sense. Unless you're a Diego Lopez superfan, this one makes no sense. And I think even Diego Lopez superfans would struggle to make a case for him. You've got Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev, both men who should have been facing Volkanovski before Lopez. It's UFC bias. UFC are biased in favor of Lopez. I think they want that Mexican champion. They want, maybe the showdown between Lopez and Yair Rodriguez, but for the belt. But Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev are both undefeated killers. Murphy, in particular, scored that spinning elbow knockout, which, I'll spoil it for you now, is in my top 5 knockouts of the year. Last time out, he made his championship claim and the UFC didn't listen. Now, Movsar Evloev is the same. He's undefeated. I think he's 19-0. Unfortunately for Evloev, he's a little bit harder to book because it's not as easy to book Movsar Evloev because he's not an attractive fighter to watch. He's 19-0. He's got 12 decisions. He's yet to finish a fight in the UFC. I'm just looking now. I think he's got 9 fights in the UFC. Yeah, 9 fights in the UFC. Every single one of them have gone to a decision. He's not a fun fighter to watch. He's got a risk-averse style where he'll ground his opponents, lie on top of them, and look to sort of waste the clock down. But you've got Islam Makhachev and you've got Khamzat Chimaev as 2 champions in the division. Let's not forget about that. They are 2 men who are risk-averse or have been risk-averse in their last fights. And you're only as good as your last fight. We know that. So Evloev, I can maybe understand a little bit. Do they want Evloev to just go out there, lie on Volkanovski for 25 minutes and win a bout on away soil? I can kind of understand that, but Lerone won't. Lerone might mix in a little bit of wrestling, but this is mixed martial arts, so will Alexander Volkanovski. Lerone will stand with Volkanovski. But the thing is with Lerone is that he won't trash talk Volkanovski. It's a difficult one. Diego Lopez won't trash talk Volkanovski either. And Diego Lopez also can't lean on that first fight and say, I was close to finishing you in that third round. I was close to finishing you in that fourth round. He wasn't. Volk was very rarely in danger in that fight, and at no point during the fight after the first round did I think Lopez had anything that would trouble Volkanovski. What they've done for me is they've denied Volkanovski the chance to enhance his legacy. Another win over Diego Lopez does not advance Alexander Volkanovski's legacy. Beating young, up and coming, undefeated killers enhances Volkanovski's legacy, especially his age. Lerone Murphy and Mosvar, both undefeated killers. And he could have taken the O of both men before June. If he gets out in February, he could take another one in May and June, and he could take the O of both Lerone Murphy and Evloev. And yet the UFC have denied him of that chance. The likelihood is now that we'll have Evloev versus Murphy as a headliner of London in March. But again, that kills the hype behind it kills the hype behind one of those men. Let's say, for argument's sake, that Murphy wins. Evloev's got no hype then. He's then got to go back to the drawing board, start cracking up wins again. And with his risk-averse style, if he loses, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more boring. If they face off against each other, you're again harming Volk's legacy of potentially being the one to take that O. Now, I'm not saying that he will, but he's got that potential. For context, Volkanovski has had 18 UFC fights. He will have had 18 UFC fights after UFC 325, assuming that all goes ahead against Diego Lopez and no one gets injured or pulls out. He would have only faced 14 men in those 18 fights. He's fought Holloway 3 times, Makhachev twice, and now he faces Lopez again. It makes no sense to me. Put Diego Lopez in with Evloev, who pulls out from a lot of fights. Let's call a spade, and give Lerone the shot. And if you don't want to do that, put Evloev in the main event and put Lerone versus Diego Lopez as the undercard. I cannot understand the UFC's logic behind booking Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez too. Again, I don't want it to seem like I'm bashing on Diego Lopez because he's one of the most exciting fighters to watch. I don't dislike any of these guys. I dislike the matchmaking. I think it's lazy. I think it's very, very biased in favor of Diego Lopez. And it doesn't make sense in the context of the division. Do you agree or do you disagree with anything that I've said there? Do let me know in the comments below. Thank you for listening. I will be back with a UFC 323 breakdown fairly soon, just maybe over the weekend. Last pay-per-view of the current era, last numbered card of the year. Let's get it. Let's smash it. Drop a comment in down below to let me know if you agree with anything that I've just said. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time.